Go out in the woods or along the stream and try it. You might not necessarily know everything or what to have or what to use. You don't have to have the latest and greatest. You just get out and try. You'll experience success, and if you have the patience, the persistence, that leads to the pride, right? I call it the 3 Ps: patience, persistence, and pride. If you have your patience, you go out along the stream or you sit in the woods. You're persistent, you go back again and try again, even though it didn't work out the first couple of times. You're going to have success, and you're going to have that pride built within yourself.
Hey, what is going on, hunting family? Got another sweet episode tonight of the Tracks and Tackle podcast. I want to welcome the panel to the show. How you guys doing tonight, guys?
What's up, dude?
Hey, brother.
Awesome.
We got ourselves a pretty cool guest here. We've run the same circles. We're another local, semi-local guy with us tonight. We got Brian Kritzer, who is quickly becoming a household name here in our group chat, because Brian's been participating with the collaborative, and Brian's got some ties with Young and Wild Outdoors in northern central Pennsylvania. So welcome to the show, Brian.
Hey, fellas, thanks for having me. I really want to thank you guys for having me. Tracks and Tackle Collaborative. It's awesome to be here. I love being outdoors, and if I could do it 24/7, 365 and breathe it and live it all the time, I would, but I do as much as I can. So it's always nice to collaborate and connect with fellow hunters that love the outdoors.
Yeah, buddy.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Well, that's why we wanted to bring you on, man. We've heard one another's stories. Like we were saying before the show, we've all got stories, and we've heard one another's stories. So that's why we bring in fresh new blood,
Yes,
so that we can get some new tales and stuff. But before we get diving into Brian's tales, let's go around the ring. Kris, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, man. I'm here. We're talking about trail cameras, and for the most part, you can bow hunt in Maryland still, but my deer hunting is done. And the day after it ends, what do I get, Josh, on my trail cam?
Picture of 4 or 5 nice little basket rack bucks walking together, all grouped up,
right underneath
the tree stand.
Yeah.
They were in the right spot. You were just at work.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. And then we're trying to figure out where to set up for goose hunting tomorrow evening. So
yeah, we're gonna try a late afternoon goose hunt tomorrow. See how that works.
Heck yeah, man. We'll get in there, because the the weather's going to change, and we're going to get that cold front moving through here in a couple
Josh
of days.
and I, we're from Maryland. I live in Pennsylvania now. Josh still lives in Maryland.
Okay.
And we have some property down there that kind of still lets us do what God intended us to do down there. So
awesome.
We're going to go try to shoot some geese tomorrow.
Try to.
That's what it's about. Josh, how are you doing, man? Haven't had you on the show in a little while.
I'm good, man. I mean, like I said, I was telling you guys off the air, I dislocated my hip a couple weeks ago, so that's been a little rough. Kind of hindered some of my duck hunting because they told me I wasn't supposed to get on the boat. Anyway.
Work hard, play hard,
yeah,
right?
But so anyway, not this past Saturday, the week before, we finally got out for my first, real duck hunt, and we didn't limit out, but we killed just over a 1-man limit with between 3 shooters. So it was a good day, fun just to be out there and let some steel shot fly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I'm glad to have you with us tonight, Brian. We'll round the table out here to you, my friend. Why don't you just introduce yourself to the audience so they get to know you a little bit, share a little bit about your roots in Pennsylvania hunting, all that stuff that we embrace. It's in our DNA. I'll turn the mic over to you.
And thanks again, fellas. I appreciate it. So I've been living, breathing, and really out in the woods since I was a little kid, experiencing what God created for us and the experiences that are brought upon us when we go out into, Mother Nature and experience all that great stuff, predicted and unpredicted, right? So we have a plan in our head and we have it all laid out and we know how it's going to go. And Mother Nature sets us straight pretty darn quick with how it's going to go and what things, how things are going to play out, whether it's good, bad, or everything in between. So I grew up in Lancaster County, which is southeast Pennsylvania. Did some hunting and fishing down there as a kid, but my dad was always into hunting and fishing, and he always took me to fishing camp, and the age for hunting and fishing, right? The golden age for a kid, at least in my family, with my dad, was 12. So once you reach 12, that was like Mother Nature's sign that you're ready for what Dad can dish out to you. So
Right.
we would go from Lancaster and we would head up to, we called it the mountains. So we would go up to Semahoney, which is Cameron County,
Yeah.
and we would always go up to Geist Mountain Campground and we would trout fish, the first opener for the trout fishing.
All right, so stop right there and talk to these Maryland guys because we've had this conversation before, but we talk about like they're used to fishing, real fishing down in the bay, in the marsh, and the Chesapeake watershed, and they don't understand the opening day of trout season and what
Yeah,
that
Maryland
means to
and
Pennsylvania guys.
Maryland's very regulated, but it doesn't have like you can't fish right now. Like,
Okay.
like there's stuff you can't keep and there's, certain regulations and certain places do, but it's not like, Josh and I have a stream on our property. We can go get trout when we want.
Yeah, there's little
Like
brown.
there's no opener to that. So that's
So talk about the opener and what that was like, especially growing up, because it's tradition and that's what we're about. One thing we're about is community, but we're big on tradition, everything, the things that shape us.
Yeah. So, in Pennsylvania here, the trout opener, there used to be, if you go back with tradition here in Pennsylvania, there used to be one opener. Okay. Then they switched to two openers. I think now we're back to one. I could be wrong. But anyway, this was back when I was 12 years old. So there was one opener in March, April. And, the tradition was established. We would go up to the campground up by the Willows local bar. Right on the other side of the bridge, there was 4 or 5 little, I'm going to call them shacks, but they were shacks that had a bed, a little mini refrigerator, a little mini stove, a little deck out back. But the deck actually went out and you could see the Semahoney River, the stream there. And you could walk right down the bank and be in the river. And I would go up with my uncles and some friends. And, it was putting rocks in guys' shoes. So when they woke up the next morning, they would put their boots on with the rocks in, so you're dumping rocks and those kind of things. You would get to the stream and your hooks would be in the back of your vest. So you had to really work to get your hooks. So, it was tradition, but it was a fun, screw around, horse around time.
Yeah.
Right.
And, we would sleep in those cabins and, my dad's buddy Dave would get up and he was my dad and Dave were always guys that got up extremely early, and that's where I get it from. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's just how I am. And I'll prep and get ready before the sun even gets up. It rises in the sky. I'm loaded and locked and ready to roll down the road and get be the first one on the stream or the first one in the woods to try to beat everybody. So, we would get up early and Josh knows, and we would get up early and we would, go down over the bank and, it was the first guy that caught the fish. There was a little bet there and,
Yep.
we would just have a blast. And, my dad was great about teaching me how to fish and what to look for with the current and the backwater and, the weight when you put the weight on to make sure it's a certain amount, you don't have too much or too little. So, we would hammer the trout there, right there along the camp. And, we would make it a day and we would fish all day, come up for lunch and then go back down. But, the fishing was great. And then in the evenings, we would sit around the fire, have some beverage, tell the stories about the big one that got off, and all that good stuff. But the pranks were part of it, right? So that's what you remember in the stories that were told at camp. And we did that for years. Now the camp has since closed. And they actually took down the little cabins there. There was like 4 or 5, but the memories are still there, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
That's an awesome story. I can imagine, like, being young and being included, we
Yeah.
talk that, sitting around the tailgate and having the older guys acknowledge you as part of the group and stuff like that, and that shapes you as a young outdoorsman.
Yeah, for sure.
It does. It does. Every year, we would reset, and every spring we would do the same thing over. But everybody's story each year would change a little bit. There would be some additions to the story that we weren't sure whether they actually happened or not. So, the stories that started little, by the time I was 20, those stories changed a lot and they grew.
They become tales.
That's right. That's right. Go ahead, Chris.
Fast forward, how'd you get hooked up with the hunting world, and how'd you get hooked up with Young and Wild, man?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. Thanks for asking. So, in addition to fishing, I would go up to, that was Cameron County. Then we would go up to Clearfield County. I have an uncle, Roger, that lives in Ansonville, PA here. He opened up his brother-in-law opened up the land to my dad and family, and we would gun hunt up there. And I got my first, it was a 10 point, which actually turned into a 9 point because it had a broken tine. And that was my first experience. I shot a buck up on that property, and I was hooked with gun season. Before that, I was up in the stand with my dad, and I was younger, so we would be in the stand together. It was an old wooden stand, and my first year there, my dad told me, he said, "Don't shoot anything until you tell me you're gonna shoot." So, well, dad is the law, right? So I follow dad's rules, right? So I'm out the back of the cab, the stand, and he's looking out the front, and this beautiful buck came down. There's a stream really close to the stand, and that buck came down, and it was a beautiful buck, and it came down, and it was something you would see in a movie or reading a book, just drinking the water. Like
Mhm.
it was not even hunting season. So, of course, me being me, I turned and said, "Dad," turned and poked him, and I said, "Hey, there's a buck." Well, and the
Yep.
story, guys. After you speak, those deer gone. So, a long story short, I turned around to say something to my dad, and the deer looked up and it took off. And soon after that, there were several shots, and that deer, somebody else got that deer. So, the more of the lesson then is listen to dad, but don't listen to dad, because he said, "Why didn't you just shoot that?" And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
dad, you told me to let you know when I was going to shoot." So, uh,
Valuable lessons learned.
yeah, a couple years later, then that other buck came out. My dad actually shot a spike, and he got down with my uncle and my cousin. We were in the same stand, and I didn't make the same mistake again. There was a buck that came out, and it was a nice one. And I said to my cousin Chris, I said, "Chris, there's a buck over there." Of course, he was younger. He said, "Where?" I said, "You know what? Forget about it. Put the scope up, put it on its shoulder, and pow." And I hit that thing and it took off. And of course, my dad came out of the brush with my uncle because he was gutting his deer. And he said, "What are you doing? What'd you do?" And I said, "Well, I just shot a buck." And so that's that story, a 10 point, but it's actually a 9. It was broken tine. So that's how I got into gun, Chris. And then I took a little bit of a break when I was in college from hunting and fishing just because it was so busy. And then after that, I got my first job, and you hook up with those guys at work, your work buddies, and your work buddies, they say, "What are you into? What do you like to do?" Well, I like to fish and hunt, guys. "Oh." So you get connected with those guys, and at that point, early 2000s, I was a traditional gun hunter. Archery, my uncle did it a little bit, and he always said you need to get into archery. That's where it's at. And I just never did. 3 close friends, actually 2 close friends, Adam and Casey, said, you need to pick up a bow. And I said, "Well, guys, I don't have a bow. I don't even know what equipment to use." And Casey said, "Don't worry about it. Here's a bow. You can use my old bow." You don't need a stand. Just come with me in the woods. So I thought, well, I don't really have anything to lose. I'll just follow this guy along and he'll kind of teach me the way.
That's nice.
One of the first times I was with him, we were hunting a field edge and I was on the ground and he was up in his climber. And I kid you not, guys, I'm not making these stories up. These did happen. These aren't hunting tales. But I was on the ground and a drop time buck came up. It was a really nice buck. I'm gonna guess around 20 yards. Saw the drop time. I looked at me. I looked at him, and I just marveled at it. And by the time when I started to move, he just turned around and he took off. So after that point, I was like, okay, guys, give me the rundown. Do I need a stand? Do I need a bow? What kind of stand do I need? What kind of bow do I need? And they really schooled me up on what it was to archery hunt. And I've been doing that ever since and been fairly successful at archery hunting. So I live and die by the bow, and I try to get my deer before the orange soldiers come out. And there's a lot of them here in Pennsylvania. I don't know about you, Kris, in Maryland, but when the orange comes out, it's even more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland is similar. Everything in Pennsylvania is so different. Ron and I have these conversations all the time. I don't know the actual measurements, but Pennsylvania just has so more open game lands that are available. Maryland has those, but Maryland is mostly private and leased stuff. So Maryland, the more people you talk to, most people are into bow hunting in Maryland. I don't know, again, the numbers are a majority of that, but everybody you talk to bow hunts because they got a farm or their family farm. So, but yeah, that's a definite, that's the thing. You got to get them before the rifle season comes because someone's going to tag it. And usually we talk about this all the time, Ron. I mean, usually when rifle season comes around, like in our family, Josh's family, the first day of rifle season is we're filling the trucks. There's not, and if I know there's a target buck or there's a big buck, we're going to try to shoot that one. But usually the first one or two that walk by, and when I say usually, I mean every time, that's what's going in the truck. And we're having tacos, and then we'll be a little bit picky after that. So, but you said, go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just saying archery, you hold your breath and you wait for that nice one to come through because you got a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when rifle season starts, especially the opener, that's when we're going to feel the freezer, like you said.
Before we jump into the young and wild stuff, you were talking about, rules of your dad. And it just reminded me of something, and I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming we're similar ages. I'm in my early 40s. But even to this day, if it's cold and I go to get down, I'm like, my dad's going to be upset.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got 5 kids of my own, I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. Like, I'm getting down, and the first thing that goes through my head is my dad's going to say something if we get down, you know. So that
Dad's
made me
rules.
chuckle a little bit on the inside, But we'll talk about how you get fast forward a little bit and talk about how you get hooked up with the young and wild boys.
Yeah, so I was here at the house one weekend here, and I was flying around, and I came back to a note on my door. It was pen lines, and it was hey, we missed you. We're gonna cut some of your trees down. Call us if you have any questions. Well, um, I have a little under 5 acres here. It's if it's green, I mow it pretty much. I don't really own any woods, but I do have a few chestnut trees ish on the property, and I'm like, "Oh, boy, chainsaws and trees that can bring deer, and I just don't like that combo." So I was like, I'm gonna call this dude, and I'm gonna kind of get the lowdown, like what's he gonna cut. So called this guy Toby, and Toby came up to the house, and he said, well, hey, Brian, nice to meet you. And he said, I'm going to cut this tree and that tree. And every 4 years we come and we cut just to make sure they're away from the lines and all that stuff. And I said, well, I really appreciate that. And he and I were standing out in my front porch here, and my property goes down a little bit to the road, but it overlooks like a field, and it's a decent view. So you can kind of see, like, it just kind of resonates with you if you're a hunter, if you enjoy the outdoors and you hunt. So he started saying, do you hunt? And I said, well, yeah, I hunt, brother. I hunt all the time and as hard and fast as I can. I'll hunt. And he said, "Oh, I hunt too." And I said, "Oh, where are you from?" He said, "Martinsburg area." And I said, "Well, that's not too far." And he said, "My boy has a YouTube channel, Larry." And I said, "Oh," I said, "What's that?" He said, "Young and Wild Outdoors." I said, "Oh," I said, "I'll have to check that out." So, as soon as Toby left, I came inside the house. So of course I talk forever. You guys probably figured that out by now. But I came in and my wife's like, "What were you doing out there for the past hour and a half talking to the tree trimming guy?
Yeah.
Like this should have been a 5-minute conversation." I was like, "Well, the dude likes to hunt." And he was like talking about this YouTube channel and like hunting and fishing. And I'm like, I'm getting on the TV and checking this out. So I sat down in a recliner and I went through their YouTube channel. And, of course they do a lot of self filming and self hunting, turkey, and deer hunting. So I was checking it out. And then they had an opportunity for a field staff position and, I applied and interviewed and, long story short, they gave me an opportunity and, I've been with them this spring. I think April or May will be a year. Just like you guys, Kris and Ron and Josh, they love the outdoors. They'll sit down and tell stories and share their experiences with you. And then we connected and it's been great. And it's been opening up opportunities for me to connect with you guys, Ron and Kris and Josh, and share stories out and then meet you guys, which is really, really cool. I have some new guys that I can connect with and experience the outdoors with and at least share stories, which is what it's all about, that tradition, getting the young generation involved, showing them what it's about, teaching them how to hunt and fish, showing them spots that are good and getting them hooked for life, and they carry on that tradition that we
Yeah.
establish.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
that's
the language
cool.
we speak, right, Ron?
Yeah, I know. That's very cool. I mean, because we're all about telling stories and remember making the memories, but then reminiscing over the memories as too. And how do you do that? You can't force it. It's got to come natural. But how do you create an environment where, like Chris's kids can experience that stuff too? Like the story about going to the camp and going to putting rocks in people's boots and just, having a good time and making those memories. So that's what we're all about. And certainly appreciate us crossing paths because we've talked with Larry and even Toby. We need to get him on the show, too. We'll put an invite out to him, to come on as well. But I know that the Larry and the Young and Wild group there, they're really pushing and getting after it. And they put together a pretty good content. So if you guys are watching this, go check them out on YouTube. I know that they'd appreciate it.
Yeah, it's funny that you said about Toby talking because we did the interview with Larry and then we got done and we're just kind of shooting it back and forth with each other. And his dad was there and his dad talked to us off air for probably as long as we did the whole interview.
Yeah.
And then just, it was just got us all pumped up. That was one of those things where, the episode that we did with them was great, turned out good. If we could have recorded what we talked about at the end, though, that was like the fun
Hmm.
tailgate, old time check station, like we're here hanging out. Like that was the cool part to me, and like you said, Brian, just meeting people and that camaraderie and tradition. That's what I preach, man. That's what we talk about every week. Broken record.
Yeah. So Brian, why don't you talk a little bit about, because up where you're at, and Kris even he touched on this earlier, but Pennsylvania's got a lot of acreage, a lot of game lands, it's public land, but there's a lot to go around. And certainly I'm a bow hunter. I can appreciate getting out there and what you're doing with the stick and string. But like what kind of strategies do you like to do? Do you hunt public? Do you hunt private land? Talk to the audience a little bit about your go-to strategies.
Yeah, so I hunt both public and private. When I'm not hunting, I'm scoping things out. So I'm the guy that's taking my daughter to school in hunting season, and I'm watching who's parked where because I'm thinking in my head that looks like a good new spot for me. Of course, I'll drive by, in archery season, and there's that car, and I'm like, darn, that guy's one step ahead of me. That's okay. When I'm not hunting, I'm hunting in my head. I'm kind of like game planning because, public hunting is, especially in Pennsylvania, I don't know about how it is there, Kris, but I think you alluded to it a little bit. It's hard to find a good spot that not a lot of other people have ventured to or
Mm-hmm.
are already there and established. And I'm a respectful hunter. You know, if I see a stand somewhere, if I see a car parked, or if I go into the woods and get a, flashlight more in gun season flashed at me, I will turn and go elsewhere. I try not to crowd up on people because I wouldn't want
Mm-hmm.
them to do that to me. So I try to reciprocate that thought process. But I think for me, I'm always planning. I never stop planning. I'm always kind of thinking of different scenarios, kind of like thinking, okay, if I cross this stream, I can park here along the road and I can cross the stream and I don't see any posted signs. Of course, I'd check on that, and then maybe I can venture up there where nobody's been. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or anybody out there listening, but there is web mapping, and it's been a game changer for me. Different counties in Pennsylvania have what's called web mapping, and you can break down counties by property lines, and you can kind
Mm-hmm.
of see who owns it. Well, you can see who owns it. So if you do the work and you're willing to kind of look at the web mapping and kind of like process some things in your head and game plan when you're not in the woods. Of course, you take as much as you can when you're in the woods, but when you're not, and do that a lot of that front loading, I think it helps. It helps you get to spots that might not necessarily been gotten to. So I do the web mapping.
Chess, not checkers.
What's that?
It's chess, not checkers.
That's
I thought
right.
you said chestnut checkers.
Yeah.
That's
was
what I
like,
thought too. Like,
what?
all right, this is a new hunting terminology. I gotta
Yeah.
get up on that.
I actually just used
Hashtag it now.
I just used the Pennsylvania DNR website. We went up to the game lands, one of the pheasant lands, and if you get on their webpage, it tells you this is where the boundaries are. This is what animals are here. This is what here is over here. Really detailed. It's a little different than what you're speaking about, but Pennsylvania offers the same kind of stuff. And I saw the same thing. I was telling Ron, I took a couple pictures. It was a really cool, pretty place. And I'm like, look at all this deer sign. I look up, there's a tree stand. Nobody was deer hunting. And then we look over here, there's another tree stand, camera over here. So, I mean, just on top of each other. We actually saw an older couple, shouldn't say couple, two older guys when we pulled up to park, and they came over and talked to us. And they said, oh, we see you got a dog, you're doing some bird hunting. And they were doing some late season firearms. I said, yeah. I said, where are you going? I said the same thing, Brian. We're going to bump these birds. I don't want to disturb you guys' hunt. Because some people, you never know. Is that the only time they got to take off?
Right.
And go do that? Is that, the tradition? It was the Saturday after Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, the tradition that they do? I don't want to ruin something. And they said, no, we're good. In fact, if you want, come back through around this time, maybe try to push some deer to us. So we tried to do that. They were gone at that point, but
How do you work it to your advantage?
But I respect that. And I wouldn't want the same thing,
I think that it's just being mindful of the, other guys, treat people the way that you would, like the golden rule, treating people the way you'd want to be treated. I know first day archery, I was up like you, Brian, crack of dawn, I was already in the woods, sitting there in the cold, waiting for the sun to come up. And then, you're there, you've been up for 2-3 hours and, you're freezing. 8:30, 9 o'clock after the sun's up, some guy comes diddy bopping down the trail, 13, 14 yards from you and messes that sweet time in the morning, 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's an awful feeling, but that's what happens with public hunting. Like that's why chess not checkers, and what I find is, the big deer are going to be where most people aren't willing to go.
Yeah. I had a little bit of something like that. I haven't talked about this yet, Ron. So we do own property in Maryland. It's a good farm. It used to be all owned by my family, my dad's family. They owned the perimeters. Obviously, life changes. People around it sell. So there's these guys that hunt behind me, and they're almost what you just talked about, Ron. They come in. You've been in your tree stand. I'm like you, Brian. We're getting there early. I'm sitting in the dark for 45 minutes to an hour. No total dark. Make sure you get there. And these guys are coming in with their gators and stuff like that at shooting light. They're leaving at 10, in and out, and in fact, a couple times I've heard them come and then stood up and have shot deer that they have pushed out. So I was leaving. I shot a doe the first day of rifle season down here, and I'm leaving, and I went up and I kind of exited toward their property, and they were standing there, and I had like this moment of clarity, and I went and introduced myself and said, "Hey, this is my name's this. We own over here." And I said, "Hey guys, listen, if you ever need anything, I'm right here. Don't feel like you can't come over here to get your deer. We're here, let's extend that olive branch." And they were two of the nicest guys I've ever met. When you're in your tree stand there, you're like boiling mad at, "Oh, this guy," and they shook my hand, and I mean, just the nicest guys that you could ever meet. So I'm glad I did that. So.
Well, we talk camaraderie a lot, because that's important, and that's what we want to teach the next generation. If you're mentoring somebody, you want to teach them, those skills, not to be, don't be a jerk, be polite and that sort of stuff. So that's all part of it. That's part of the hunting experience.
Well, and especially you guys have it. And again, I talk about it all the time, but Brian, like in Maryland, my family went to PA when my dad was a kid to hunt camps. There was no like hunt camp stuff where I'm from. It was like, here's the farm, we loved it, but we would meet at the farm, and you'd go here and you'd go here. We didn't have our phones when I was a kid. It was like, sit here till dark, or you have to go to the bathroom, or, maybe we're going to meet for lunch. But other than that, don't move, don't talk, pee in a bottle, see you later, So like the whole camaraderie and camp thing is what I'm trying to rebuild with 3B. So I took that opportunity. I'm like, okay, let's see if I can get these guys, you know, let's build a bridge here. Let's build a friendship here. Let's bring back that old feel rather than lands at a premium. This is my side. That's your side. Let the Civil War begin. Right. So.
And I think that's like kind of the roots of the collaborative that we have, and the group of different content creators and guys like yourself that just, you love the outdoors and you want to contribute, and you're posting stuff online. We want to cheer one another on. We don't want to badmouth and shame anybody. We always, just hunt your hunt the way that you want to do it. I saw you were talking, but I saw some pictures. You're working on a kayak. You going to do a little fishing this summer?
Yeah, so I've been really researching and eyeing up kayaks for, it seems like for me, years. When I buy something that's a little bit more of a price tag, I want to make sure that I buy something, and I kind of like the one and done. I've had my bare bow. It's the Truth, first version of the Truth since I started hunting with a bow in 2005, and it's been serving its purpose, and it's been tremendous. So I made that investment back then. Several hundreds of dollars back then was
Right.
expensive for the bow, and they're extremely expensive today, even more so than back then. I think I paid $700 for that bow with everything on it. But when I buy something, I like to buy kind of once and done and make it last for as long as I can. So I've been really eyeing up kayaks. I do a lot of YouTube. I try to do some DIY stuff as much as I can, but I was watching videos on YouTube, and I landed on a Jackson U-Pick, a kayak, and it's designed for fishing. And growing up, I did the trout fishing, like I said earlier, and it was put your hip waders on or put your chest waders on. Make sure the water doesn't go over those, or you're in trouble, kind of thing. You're going to be
Mm-hmm.
cold, and you might not come back up if you get too deep with your chest waders. So I was always that kind of wade out and fish. And the Juniata River's in my backyard, pretty close to being in my backyard. I'm very close to it. And I've been for years, I used to wear like tennis shoes and a pair of mesh shorts, put my vest on, and just roam. And I just loved it. I still love it. I still love to go out, and I still love to roam Metallica style. Wherever I may roam
Right.
That's what I'm
is where
talking
I'm
about.
going. That's right.
That's my other language.
Rock on, brother. But I was metallicing it up in the stream, and I was roaming where I wanted to. And when you wade, you can kind of work around other people and kayakers and stuff. So I was hitting up the river here. If you go north enough, where I'm at, up north of towards Tyrone, you get the trout in the Juniata River, and as you come down towards Lewistown and Mount Union Way, you get more of the smallmouth. So in the summertime, I'm hitting the river for smallmouth. In springtime, and smallmouth are a blast. I mean, they're just mini. They're just fish that are on steroids. I don't know how else to compare it. They're strong. They flip in the air, and they just get your heart pounding and pumping. it's just fun. So I'm not getting any younger, Kris. You said about age. I'm in my mid 40s. So, to wade fish now, the rocks are pretty slippery. I do more stumbling and my feet, just my back, I'm getting older here.
Not
And
20 anymore.
so, yeah, I'm not 20 anymore. So I'm like, okay, how do I get around and do it and maybe even cover more ground and have fun? And I'm like, okay, kayak. Let's start to research some kayaks. So I made the plunge. Um, my wife gave me the green light. I made the plunge. I got it, and I don't regret it at one bit. It is a blast. If you guys have kayaks or anybody out there listening that's looking to get a kayak, I 100% without a doubt do it. You will not regret it. I give you my permission. Tell your wife or tell whoever
Brian
that
says it's
I'm
okay.
signing off. It's okay. Go get it. And then if it's not, we're gonna blame Ron and Kris. So
I'm used to it. It's okay. We had a guy on over the summer. So again, where I'm cross pollinating with Ron is I got a lot of guys from Maryland that fish. They chase the snakeheads, and we call them rockfish, but striped bass, right? And that's what he actually said. He said, when you're buying a kayak, don't buy your first kayak, buy your second kayak, meaning buy the one you're going to want
Yeah,
mhm.
down the road, right?
that's good advice.
Like your first house, everyone, how I got to buy a starter house. No, save your money and buy the house that you don't want to have to move from, so like that. But we'll get you in touch with some of those guys, man, that are like fish nuts, and maybe trade
That'd be
some hunts
awesome.
and get you some
Yeah.
stuff down here, and just meet some cool guys, man. Eddie's he's got his own business, so he's in the collaborative sometimes he's gone, but he actually has a bait business.
Yeah, I was thinking of him today. I haven't talked to, I don't know if you, Kris, if you've connected with him in a while,
No,
but
not really. I mean,
we need to reach out to him.
Yeah, he travels a lot too, and I'm not trying to ride his junk. He's just a nice guy. He travels. He goes to Florida. He's got guys. I mean, he legit has like a snakehead and lure company that he runs, and he's got guys in Florida like either on field staff and pro staff he goes and fishes with and does tournaments. And he's been on like Joe Cermelli from Meat Eater. He's been on his podcast, and they
Cool.
give this dude shout outs. And he's just a good old Maryland boy from down around Annapolis, fishing the bay and stuff like that. But he loves to trade hunts or get people down there on their kayaks and take them out.
Well, I've always so I fished the Juniata with the kayak, and I've been venturing more. Kind of one of my bucket list things that I want to do. So if there's anybody out there, and hey, Ron, we'll get you a kayak, or Kris, we'll get you kayaking. But come along. I'd like to put in at the Warriors Mark Dam, which is around Alexandria, and go the whole way down. I know this is pushing it, but go the whole way down to the Susquehanna, make a run that way. I'd like to kayak and camp through the whole stretch there, and then I'd like to do the Susquehanna to the Chesapeake, kayak and camp. Although I don't know how I'd survive without fresh water or anything like that, but that's part of the adventure. We'll work it out, and we can live off some water and catch some fish and eat it. So let's do it.
Yeah.
True
Yes,
adventure, man. I love it.
I took a January dip in where the Susquehanna meets the Chesapeake. I fell off a boat there.
How
during
deep
duck
was it?
season. No, it's not deep. They do so I'm really into duck hunting.
Wasn't
And
intentional.
they do a thing called body booting in the bay. It's an old traditional way where you actually get in the water with your decoys, and they'll carve a big, large goose decoy out of wood that has a shelf on it, almost like a flower planter box. And you get in the water behind that, and the ducks just come in over top. It's really exciting.
So
I've
you're in
told
the
a story.
water. How deep are
You're
you in the water?
Yep.
How deep?
It's only waist deep, maybe
Okay.
chest deep. It's not, you can stand up. It's called the flats there. So people fish there all the time. It's great for kayaking. It's great for fishing, recreational, just boat, all kinds of stuff like that. And it's like world famous for duck hunting. That's where a lot of the ducks are going. It's their midway stop before they're going down far south, right?
Wow.
So where I hunt, some of the lakes up here and ponds up here, when somebody says the bottom is hard, it's probably like Raystown where you get off the boat and it's hard. He goes, no, just step off the boat. It's hard. Well, it was about 6 inches of mud. You could stand there. And I'm not little. I'm 6'4". I'm doing like a split off this dude's boat, off the back of his boat. I'm sliding off his motor like Mufasa from the Lion King. And I'm just like, it's over. I'm in the water. I toughed it out though. We hunted for a while. And then the tide changed, kind of different down there, and ended up coming a little higher. But It's really exciting. I have some cool pictures of the sun coming up, and we're in the water, and it's cool. We actually decided it was time to leave because a guy I was with, his dip can came out of his waders and started floating down the water. And he's like, "That's the sign that it's time for us to go. The water's too high." So yeah,
What
it's
kind of
cool there.
ducks?
And
What kind of ducks are you hunting down there then, Kris?
so
Like
down
what?
there, you're getting everything. So
Okay.
because it's marshy, you're getting what's called, puddle ducks, mallards, and the wood ducks. But mostly you're going after like canvasbacks, what you call your diver ducks, bluebills are coming into that water. I mean, you're getting a mix of everything. I mean, stuff is going there, and that's where the big flocks are going. It's not like your local pond where you get a couple that come in. I mean, it's like thousands of birds are going to be flying around, and that's like, I mean, they sell books online about that place for hundreds and thousands of dollars, and hunting the Chesapeake, that's the
Wow.
place, you know.
What's the
So
limit? Is it different for different kinds
no,
of
most of the
birds?
limits are about the same. Geese gets a little different, but most of the time, you can get, depending on what you're getting. I mean, there is some trash ducks that you can just kill a shit whack of,
Okay, kind of like
but most
crows
of
or something.
yeah, I mean, most of
Okay.
them you're getting two, or a drake and a hen or whatever like that. But it changes every year, so check what you're doing. And I don't want to say something that's wrong,
Sure.
Right. check
and
your
because
local
and a lot of
listings.
times with duck hunting too is, the unspoken rule is it's kind of the group, so we can divide it up by,
Oh, okay, I
okay, the
gotcha.
group got this right. Does that make sense? It's not
It's
like a
just like
deer
trout
where,
fishing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah.
going to do
Similar.
this, But I mean, if you're getting that many ducks where you got to do that, you're having a good day.
Wow.
I've gotten some piles and stuff before, but it's fun, man. In fact, one of the most, we're getting off subject because you said two of my favorite things. You said Metallica and duck hunting. So
Oh,
you're gonna sidetrack me like real easy.
well, here's the question for you, Kris. Have you ever been to a Metallica concert?
Yes, I have. Yep,
Okay,
yep,
those are
yeah,
epic.
yeah. I
We'll
went
we'll
to.
get you. We'll talk
Yes, we got.
heavy
We'll
metal
start. Yes,
after the show because Kris
we
will.
have another. We have another podcast that Ron is kind of keep going. I have kids and time and a hectic job called the Roundtable, and we actually just one
We
of the
just sit
last ones
around and
we did
talk about this
was,
stuff.
what
Wow.
was it, like our top 5 favorite metal riffs of
Yeah,
all
so
time?
there was 3 or 4 of us on that episode around the table, and we just talked about heavy metal riffs, top 5, with a few honorable mentions, and lot of good call
Yeah,
outs in that.
I have long sleeves on right now, but I'm sleeved out. I was in a touring death metal band for a long time, long hair,
Wow. Cool,
before I had
man.
to grow before I had to grow up and get a real job and
This is all
stuff like
part of
that.
like
So
being joining the group, Brian. Like
yeah,
you get
yeah,
to know
Yeah,
the
that's
yeah.
inside
awesome.
stories, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. Really was, um, we added you into the group chat with the collaborative, because we got the relationship that we had connected with the Young and Wild originally. And so when you and I started talking, we just added you to the chat. You haven't been part of the chat very long, and it's been a little bit quiet, recently,
Hmm.
with the exception of a couple of people chiming in here now that we're on the back end of whitetail season. But I mean, what's been your experience so far? With joining the group, and certainly appreciate your participation in that.
Yeah, the collaborative, the Tracks and Tackle collaborative is awesome. When you get a group of like-minded individuals together that like to joke around, that like to have fun, that like to rock out, and that's what it's all about. And I just enjoy being part of the collaborative because guys will share pictures, some stories, and it's just like there's a little bit of busting going on, which is part of it, and I like that
Right.
because
Yes, yes,
I like to joke around. So like if somebody, sends a picture or something, and we kind of get a little sidetracked, but that's like camp, like trout camp and hunting camp. That's part of it. You get
You
sidetracked.
just want to have fun.
That's the
yeah.
best part of it. It's fun.
Well, Ron and I talk about this all the time. In fact, I think we've talked about the last 2 or 3 episodes mentioned it, but the first day of rifle season, and I have kids, and I've said this a bunch. My focus has been getting my kids out and fishing and hunting with them and getting them success. I hadn't killed a deer for a little while because I'm trying to get them out and just haven't had success. So a big fat doe came through. I shot it. I sent it to Ron. I get Ron pumped up. He sends me a picture, and like that's what it's about. Like we're firing each other up. We're getting each other stoked, and I'm the same way. I have to remind myself that like not everybody has brothers.
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
like the dude ribbing and pranking, and like, people are like, dude, you're kind of mean. And I'm like, oh, that's my bad, dude. Like, I'm used to this from playing sports and
Right.
and having brothers and stuff sometimes, but that's, to me, that camaraderie, the punching and twisting
That's
and
how you know
joking
you
and
fit in.
yeah,
if somebody's giving you a hard time,
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say like even last night, like I was in bed a little bit earlier than normal, and I had something. Had my earbuds in. I was listening to something podcast or something, but I had my phone on my nightstand face down, and I don't know. Every 5 minutes, I hear the phone vibrate, and it's just somebody on the group chat just hitting up, sending a message, and somebody responding to that. So that's cool. I
yeah. It
really,
was
really appreciate it, and we love it when people are interactive because we want you guys to meet each other and get to know one another, and like I think Kris, you said cross pollinate. Like that's what
yeah,
we're all about.
yeah. So we're pumped that you're part of it, and it's just you jumped right in, man. Like part of the ship, part of the crew, right? And
Well, I
that's
just
cool to me.
appreciate you guys having me, and it's cool to be part of a group like this. If anybody out there is looking for this kind of setup, I highly encourage to look into the collaborative and kind of see what this is about. But it's all about the traditions, and another thing I always like to mention is when you're out, in the field or on the stream and you see that kid by themselves, or you see those kids by themselves, like you said, Kris and Ron, you know, um, don't have your guard up. I was fishing one time and there was a kid by himself, younger kid, and that used to be us. Remember when we would just venture out by ourselves or with a couple buddies? That was us back in the day, and we were still trying to figure things out. And I was a local stream, and I forget what I was using, but every other cast I was pulling out a trout, and this kid was a little bit down from, and he was just kind of watching me, and not right close to me, but enough to see me. And I said, come here. I said, over here. And he just was kind of like, just like shocked. He's like, what's this dude want? Like, what do you want? And I said, come over here. I said, hey, this is your spot now. You stand here. And I said, this is what I'm throwing. You could throw anything you want. It's your spot now. And he just kind of looked at me and he was like shocked. He's like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm leaving. This is yours. You
Gonna
catch
move
the
on.
fish. I've caught them. Like, I want you to catch the fish. And I think with this younger generation, we got to give back a little bit. We got to get these kids experiencing success, or if you have a good spot that it's public and you kind of know, take that kid along, or take your nephew along, or a relative, or a cousin, and say, hey, I know this. Here's what I'm going to teach you. This is some of the things you can learn. You're going to learn as you go, right? But here's a good spot you can try. Good luck. And and you do that, and these kids could get hooked for life. And they're like us down the road. We're long
That's it.
gone, and they're sitting here having these conversations, and they're telling these stories. I was on the stream one time, and this chucklehead dude, I don't know who he was. He just told me to take this spot. Man, that was the day I caught 25 fish, and I caught my
Yeah,
biggest fish that day.
yeah,
So
That's what I was
those kind
thinking,
of
Brian.
things.
Yeah, when you were telling that story, not only are you setting them up for a little bit of success, but when they're young enough and getting into it, and we were all that age once, right? Where you're leaving an impression. Those kids are impressionable, and they're gonna treat somebody like that down the road.
yeah.
You know, good
Well,
favor.
I'll tell two stories real quick. I know we're starting to wrap up here towards the end, but my family, we go to the Outer Banks every year, and my wife works at home. I have a job where I have a lot of leave I can take off, and my wife homeschools the kids, so we take about 2 weeks in September. It's their off season. It's fairly cheap to go. Hint, hint, everybody out there that wants to go. It's just nice down there. It's a different world down there. Anybody that goes, so we're down there, and you're just not. It's not Ocean City, or it's not some of these crowded beaches. So you almost get to the point, almost like we said with hunting, where if someone's kind of close to you, you're like, what is this guy doing? They're 10 yards away from us. What is going on? So we're there at the beach. My family's there, and this other family comes, bunch of kids, and they just kind of keep getting over to us. And these kids have a cast net, and they're just throwing it into the water, having fun. And what happens is down there they have sandbars down there, and little bait fish will get stuck in them. And this kid's throwing them. And at first I was kind of getting upset because I couldn't see my kids. And I said, okay, come here, dude. I went over to him. I said, throw it here, wait for the water to go out, and then do it like this. And this kid he just kept reeling bucket after bucket. They were just little tiny shad bait fish, but that was like giving him $1 million, you know, and he was just pumped, you know. And then, you know, a different thing, you know, where I live, there's a big public lake, Cador State Park, Lake Marburg. I didn't know you could duck hunt until about 5 or 6 years ago. You can duck hunt there. They do drawings. It's open to the public. You can duck hunt, deer hunt, pheasant hunt, whatever you want there. And I tell people that, you know, like, hey, and I've blown people away. Like, go here, set up here. Guys that kayak hunt, like you were saying, Brian, they take your kayak and you can go here. And they just had so much success. And it doesn't do me any good to not tell anybody you can't do it. You know, like I'm not going to go kill more ducks because I didn't tell somebody, you know, like I'm seeing these dudes, and then that's your success. That's your success that you have passed on, you know, and I'm not taking anybody's shooting skills or whatever, but you know, I've told a couple guys, Mike that runs a big podcast called Mountain and Marsh we're friends with, big time waterfowler, goes to those flats I was telling you about. He went to Cador's, didn't know you could do it, and he just crushes it out there. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like I'm not upset because he's doing it. It's pumped up. So that's again, you got me preaching again. That's my bit for the night. So
Well, just to add to that, you know, I said about hunting public and private, you know, when you have an opportunity, and I have a little bit of access to some private, and it was kind of one of those things where I just went and knocked on the door, and sure, have at it. It's the last response I expected to get. You know, in today's age, it's no, this person did this, or forget about it, or no, you know, and it was like, have at it, enjoy yourself, have fun. And it was like the golden ticket. And I was like, wow. And, you know, every year since I get a little card. It's just a thank you card. And, it's not a lot in it. I think it's usually 30 or $40 worth of lottery tickets. And, there was one year where, I was like 3 or 4 years into hunting this spot. Sometimes I'll catch the folks that live there. If not, I always put a note, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to and privilege to hunt on your land. You don't know how much this means to me. If things change, please give me a call. And I always put my cell phone number in there. So the following day, I got a call from a number, and I'm like, I'm not sure who this is. I typically don't pick up, but I picked up, and she said to me, you'll never guess, I won on your lottery tickets. And my heart dropped. I thought, oh my God, this lady just won $50,000. And you would think that that's what it was, but she won $300 off like a $3 scratch off. And it just meant
That's
the
so
world
cool.
to her. You know, not that you have to do something for people, but when you just do this, even a thank you card, and just tell the people, or some people give the deer meat, or bologna or jerky.
Give back, show appreciation.
Yeah, I think that means a lot. So that's another, you know, everybody talks about it, but I think that's important to mention.
Well, I think your dad probably did right. You know, dad's law, dad's word being law. You know, I think he pointed you the right direction, Brian. And this has been a great conversation. I want to wrap it, but if there's like one last thing, and maybe you just said it, but if there's one last thing that you would want to leave, like somebody that's young or a new outdoor enthusiast that wants to get into it, what would you want to leave them with and tell them?
Go out in the woods or along the stream and try it. You might not necessarily know everything or what to have or what to use. You don't have to have the latest and greatest. You just get out and try. You'll experience success. And you know, if you have the patience, the persistence, that leads to the pride, right? I call it the 3 Ps: patience, persistence, and pride. If you have
Mm-hmm.
your patience, you go out along the stream or you sit in the woods, you know, you're persistent, you go back again and try again, even though it didn't work out the first couple of times. You know, you're going to have success, and you're going to have that pride built within yourself, and you're going to want to go back and do it again. And you're going to want to take other people, and you're going to want to share your stories out. So final thoughts are, if you're not out doing it, just do it. If you're thinking about buying it, I know it's easier said than done. Save up, buy it, do it. You can't replace the memories that are created and the experiences that are created. You can save your money for other things, and you know, but you know, you just can't replace it. So do it, enjoy it, and take somebody along and share the stories with them and the experience, and that's what it's all about.
yeah, yes, sir.
Love
Full
it, bro.
show.
For sure. Yeah, that's it, man. So, where can people find you if they want to follow you on socials?
My Instagram is Brian Kritzer, Brian Kritzer, Kritzer. Follow me on Instagram. Also, make sure you guys follow Tracks and Tackle Collaborative on Instagram. That's awesome. These guys are, awesome group to follow. So follow them. Follow the guys on YouTube. You decide who you want to follow. I'm with Team Young and Wild. They do a tremendous job out there, sharing their experiences, turkey hunting and deer hunting. So if you get on YouTube, subscribe to them, look and see what other people are out there. There's a lot of people doing a lot of cool things. You learn a lot from other people, their experiences in YouTube and Instagram. So get on there, get out and experience, and then share your experiences with everybody that way.
Couldn't have said it better myself, and listen, if you're out there and you're on YouTube world and you're checking out some of these guys, and Young and Wild does a great job, put together really quality content, but there's a ton of groups out there that do that. And I'll just even speak for ourselves. Drop a comment on some of those videos because most people will interact with you. And that's how we meet a lot of people. That's how Brian and I met, just because, we're liking one another's content and we're following the same people and that sort of stuff. So listen, appreciate you being with us tonight, Brian. This was an awesome conversation. I know we could go on more. An hour goes by pretty quick, man. So
It does.
What we'll do is, we'll have you back sometime, but certainly continue to contribute to the collaborative, and glad to have you, Kris. As always, brother. Appreciate you. We'll be
Yes, sir.
be in touch. Hang out here a little bit more. I'm gonna roll the creds, and for all you guys out there watching, appreciate you sticking with us this long. Like, subscribe, drop a comment. Remember, we always say you got to get outdoors. Nature is our playground, and we encourage you always to just stay wild. We'll see you next time.